Hey, Phantomaniacs, welcome to the newest unboxing here on the Needless Things YouTube channel. After last week's Thundercats week that I got a lot of comments about, people are not super thrilled with that wave, so I thought it would be nice to have a little palate cleanser here, something that people would potentially be a little more excited about, and that is Raphael as Frankenstein's monster from the new NECA Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Universal Monsters mashup line. And even though there is a history going all the way back to the original Ninja Turtles line of Ninja Turtles being crossed over with Universal Monsters and Star Trek, and then of course more generic things like just sports, this did seem like kind of a weird thing, if only because of the intense quality that went into it. And you can see right here, let's see. There we go, James Groman, who you may recognize from Madballs, My Pet Monster, some of the most legendary like monster or gross out toys ever. James Groman had a hand in this in the design. And my gosh, you guys, just look at that thing. When this was announced, I didn't know what my interest level was going to be, because even though I love Universal Monsters, I love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it just felt like something, my gosh, where am I going to find the space for that? It's a whole new thing starting up. I just don't know. So I didn't pre-order any of these guys. My assumption was that one day I would go into Target, they wouldn't have any G.I. Joe or anything else that I was looking for, and I would end up buying one of these, and that would open the floodgates, and that's exactly what happened. After a couple of weeks of just dry shelves, I walk into a Target. This is the only thing that they had that I was like, I wouldn't mind having that, so I bought it. Long story that I did not make short at all. So packaging is beautiful. It's got that sort of flat finish with the glossy detailing on the words and everything there. Always a nice look. I like how classy NECA keeps anything related to Universal Monsters. And while I'll never be a fan of the newest Universal Monsters logo, there it is on the packaging. I love the back of the box. This is one of my favorite box backs. Boy, there's got to be a better term for that, huh? It's not a card back, right? It's a box back. So this is one of my favorite box backs that I've ever seen. I love how it looks like an old school movie poster. All the details you can see, great shots of the figure. You know, normally I would prefer at least a couple of shots of the original subject just to compare the figure to, but in this case there is no such thing. This is a completely new creation from the minds of, as we saw before, these folks right here. I love that NECA gives credit to their creators. I think that's fantastic. So, I already opened up the front just so you could see the figure for a second. But this, as soon, like I already knew I was going to get it, but once I opened this up in the store, I was like, oh, done deal. I have to have this. It's just too classic, too wild. So let's open this guy up and take a look at the figure itself and find out how well NECA executed this concept. And I gotta tell you, as somebody who's been collecting NECA from the start, the last few years they've really upped their game. So inside we've got a cool sort of lightning cemetery motif, red for Raphael. I would assume the other ones will be similarly color coordinated. Oh, and if I went past it too fast, you can see we've got Leo as Igor, Michelangelo as the Mummy, and I just noticed this tear in the packaging, but I don't care, because as awesome as this packaging is, it's going in the trash. And then we now know this is April O'Neil with Judith Hoag's likeness as the Bride of Frankenstein. I think I'm very excited about that figure. That pre-order went up last week, maybe. Might have been the week before. There's been a lot of stuff lately. So I'm going to try a little something now, because this is purple in person, and it's very blue in the video. So we are going to adjust our lighting here and see if we can get something a little more true. So I just changed my ring light to a more natural light. Isn't that interesting? I appreciate you guys playing along as I sort of figure things out, and this will be an ongoing process. I'm going to leave it on this light because I think this looks more true to what's in my hands. All right. I appreciate you guys hanging in there as I figure this process out. I will be constantly making adjustments and trying to figure out the best way to present everything that I do here. This is all, I don't have a teacher, a coach, or anything like that. Everything that I do, I'm figuring out as I go along. The reviewing stuff via video was not initially a thing that I was, I'll say, comfortable with. I was interested in it, but after doing toy reviews that consisted of pictures and words for over a decade, this has been a change. And I'm enjoying it, though. I've loved doing it this way because it feels so much more organic to me. And as has been pointed out in the comments in some of the older reviews, I have my own taste. I have my own thoughts about what toys should be. And you guys aren't always going to agree with that, and that's okay. There was, like I said, people just hate Super 7. And I can recognize flaws, but also appreciate, there's a big thick one right there, but also appreciate what was intended, I guess. I don't know. So I like to think I try to be as fair as possible, and I do go into things with a positive outlook. I have never opened a toy with the intent of just trashing it, because why in the world would I spend money on something that I think I'm not going to like? So every toy I review here, I have a positive outlook because I've bought it because I think I'm going to like it and enjoy it. And it doesn't always turn out that way. Wow, what all have we got going on here? Look at these actual metal chains. That are, oh my gosh, you guys, the detail in this is just crazy. Wow. Okay. First up, let's look at this portrait. Gosh, now the light, I feel like the light is like too bright and distracting now. Let's try this. Okay, so is that both? Yeah, that's both. I don't know. We're going to leave it like this for a minute. All right, so that face. So this was, designed by James Groman, sculpted by, well, it was designed, a lot of people have the credit for the design on this. I'm sorry I keep referring back to this, but I'm just so fascinated by how this was executed. So direction, design, and development, Randy Falk, obviously the head of NECA. So we don't know who did what on this. We don't know who's responsible for the portrait. We don't know who's responsible for just saying, hey, let's put some cool gauges on him. We don't know who did what, but whoever executed this portrait, I mean, look how they've basically turned Raphael into Boris Karloff. I'm not going to sit here describing exactly what we're looking at because you can see it, but I mean, look at the detail here on the cheek. Just absolutely fantastic. And I love how flat the face is as well. They've taken such a unique approach. You know, it's not just Raphael with a Frankenstein, with the bolts in his neck or whatever. This is really a unique characterization. I love how deep set the eyes are. They've captured that look. And then, of course, to see the hair up top. This is not Raphael in a Frankenstein costume. This is Raphael as Frankenstein, as Frankenstein's monster. So he has, articulation-wise, It looks like there's a hinge. Maybe it doesn't come with an alternate portrait, so you don't have to worry about switching any heads out or anything like that. And now that I'm looking, I was thinking there was a hinge, but no, this is on barbell or whatever you call it. Pretty good range of motion on this. And it looks like, I'm trying to figure out if the neck, because here's what I don't want to do. I don't want to take a chance on snapping these bolts off. It appears that the neck is a separate piece, but it's not moving at all. It's not turning, and there's really no reason for it to be, but sometimes NECA oh, there is. Look at that. I don't know if you could see that. Oh, gosh. Okay. So the neck is also, there's a point of articulation right here as well that I'm just not even going to mess with, because if I snapped one of those bolts off, that would be no good. Okay. What else we got going on? We've got some patches. He's got the jacket on, but notice all the patchwork and stitching and everything in here. I'm going to change my light again. Like I said, I appreciate you guys sticking with me and hanging in there as I figure these things out. Yeah, see, that looks better because I feel like you can see more of the detail with the mix of light. Okay, so anyway, you've got the kind of shoulder joints you expect to have. A nice thick ring in there, so you don't have to worry about that breaking, hopefully. And, you know, as much as I love NECA now, as much as I feel like they're on a roll, as someone who has collected NECA from the start, I don't know if there will ever be a day where I'm not very, very cautious about playing with the articulation on a NECA figure. So he's got these bolts, or these bars, whatever, on the front bolted to his jacket. And you can see this is where the chains go. So I was kind of trying to figure out what... Oh, you know what? I just realized what's going on here. We'll look at that in a second. That actually makes sense. So this chain literally just hangs sort of down or wherever you want. And it is all one connected piece. So in theory, you could position these in a few different ways. Let's take a look at that box and see if we've got a full body shot of this guy. Okay, so they're just around the waist here. Okay. And if you're watching and you've already figured out what these are for, then good for you. It took me a second. All right. So let's get the... Well, it doesn't matter. I'll leave the chains where they are for right now. So he's got his elbow pads on top of the jacket, which is very Ninja Turtle-y. That's how I see these things being. And you'll notice that these are the brown elbow pads and knee pads, very much like the 1990 movie. I'm curious how this elbow articulation works, because you can see that elbow pad piece. Interesting. So it just kind of squishes down some. You don't have... Look at the way it tucks underneath the jacket there. Very interesting. You don't have a very deep bend. Personally, I don't care about that. This is Frankenstein. This is not Raphael, so I don't need him to be in crazy dynamic like Spider-Man poses. I'm fine with that. Interesting how that was engineered. And it feels sturdy too. Like everything so far, all the articulation I've manipulated feels pretty sturdy and good. And you can see here, you've actually got some rotation at the top of that elbow joint and at the forearm. The hands, you do have some other hand options, and these are your standard. There we go. The peg with the hinge. Nice thick peg, so I'm not too worried about breaking that or anything. I'm just going to plug that right back in. Hip joints, we've got the typical NECA design here. Let's see if we've got a waist. Yeah, there's a waist joint up underneath. And then hip joints, you know, it's what you expect. It's this sort of diaper type deal going on. Pretty good range of motion there. You can see the hinge inside. And of course, then there's rotation at the top of the thigh. And again, we've got the same design with the knees that we had with the elbows. Not a lot of range on those, but again, looking at this, I want this figure to look like this. I want those knee pads to go around the back. It's more important to me that this figure look killer than be able to squat or anything like that. So I'm sure with a little more, there's probably a little more bend to be gotten out of this if I can play with it just a little bit more, but right now that's kind of all we get. But as far as I'm concerned, for Frankenstein, that's all you need. He's not going to be leaping around rooftops or anything. Really nice ankle joint there. I like the bolts on his ankles as well. Let's see if there's... Okay, and you've also got rotation right here. I love the look of these knee pads, how they're kind of... They almost look like they've got extra fabric to be stretched out. It's better than if it was just the elastic going around the back. I don't know. They've really made some great decisions here. You can see the stitching. The same stitching that's on the jacket is on the trousers. These big, thick soles of the Frankenstein shoes. And then the back of the shell, which we haven't even gotten to yet, almost kind of the main event of this guy. I mean, obviously that portrait is unbelievable. He's got the little gauge here, and if you can tell, there is actually a clear piece of plastic on top of this gauge, and then your tubing comes around. You've got this hose going onto his neck here, whatever this business is, and he's got another gauge with another clear piece of plastic, if you can see that. Really beautifully done. And he's got a manhole cover kind of attached here. His shell is very, very soft plastic on these. These don't interfere with anything movement-wise. Shell has all kinds of fissures and cracks in it. And the paint on this guy, I haven't even really talked about the paint. The paint is phenomenal. Look at these paint applications. And this is an exemplary. If you're a fan of horror and you're a fan of Ninja Turtles, I think you have to have this. And I wasn't sure if I had to have it. You know, it just seemed like, my gosh, it's a whole other thing now. Don't I buy enough figures? Do I really need, another kind of Ninja Turtle? And the answer, it turns out, is yes. Yes, I do. All right, let's look at the stuff that he came with. Like I said, we've got some alternate hands here, and these are all sculpted. These aren't like reused from other Ninja Turtle figures or anything. These are unique to this guy. So you've got a couple of C-grips to interact with the weapons that he comes with, and you've got a couple of closed fists for punching, because this version of Frankenstein is certainly going to be doing some punching, I think. And then you have Raphael's sai that are a nice rigid plastic, not rubbery at all, and with the shape of the lightning bolt and the whatever this business is, capacitor, I don't know. I don't know what the things that they use to create Frankenstein are called, but you can see that these have some nice paint on them, just a little bit of sort of aging going on. And that brings us back to, what the heck are those things for? Oh, durr. So those sai. How do you pluralize sai? I feel like that's something I should know as somebody who's been reading Ninja Turtle comics for 30-something years. Those go right in there. They may fit a little bit better with a little more effort or time to figure them out. But I believe I'll have him holding them. I don't know how much I love... Like, these are almost a little too goofy. because, you know, as I mentioned, Ninja Turtles has been doing this kind of thing for years, and it's usually done very, very tongue-in-cheek. Whereas this figure is like a serious horror figure. There's not a lot of the inherent humor of the Ninja Turtles as a toy line in this figure. So, like, these look awesome, but they're almost a little too whimsical. But they're great. I mean, I'm going to display them. I'm going to put them on the figure. I don't know if I'm going to have him holding them or just stick them in his belt, because I do like his sort of graspy monster hands. Maybe I'll have him... Here's what I think I might do. I'll put one in his hand and have it just kind of hanging there. I might have to heat this guy up to get this in his hand. Yeah, that's not going to work. So I think what I might do is have one Sai in his hand, like almost like he's not even aware that he has it, just sort of hanging there, and then the other hand reaching out in your typical like Frankenstein mummy grasping monster manner. So there you go. That is Raphael as Frankenstein's monster. To me, this is one of those things you buy because you're a toy collector, because you love the art of action figure design. It's not even so much that I love Ninja Turtles and that I love Universal Monsters. It's that I love the art of toys. And that, I mean, this is that, I think, at its peak. Thanks for watching, you guys. Please like, subscribe, share. Tune in every week for new toy reviews. Tell your friends about Needless Things. And,
smash that like button if you like Needless Things.